and welcome to Heaven and Health YouTube channel. And I am your host, JoJo Tabaras, here with Terri Hutchinson, my co-host for spiritual. We're talking about this week, spiritual health. And so we are talking about how we remember that our words and acts have relevance in a world that makes so many of us feel irrelevant.
Right.
So what do you say about that? You had a counter question
I
for us.
do. I do. Has anyone ever said to you something like, do you remember when you told me blah, 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 blah? Well, it really stuck with me. In fact, I've shared that with others, and you are totally in the dark. Has that ever happened to you?
Yes, that has happened to me. I've had people send me messages in Facebook talking about something or other, and oh, this was so wonderful. And I'm like, that wasn't me.
Really, right? Well, let me tell you what happened to me on Facebook. A friend from high school found me. And she said, yeah, I remembered something that you told me when we sat in the high school library so long ago. And she went on and she even said, I've thought about you 8 million times ever since that day. And I'm like, what? And so finally, it dawned on me there was another Terry in our high school class. And she had been talking about her hair and her faith and how those two were connected. And I was like, well, I didn't know anything about God when I was in high school. So I'm pretty sure you're talking about the other Terry. And so, but what that made me realize was, what we say and when we say it, it can have purpose. And, the reality TV shows like Real Housewives of blah, 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 Big Brother, Survivor, and the other similar shows, they scream, look at me, I'm somebody. And that sends a subliminal message to you. So does social media that, well, you know, they're relevant, but you're not because you're not in the scene, right? You're not in the scene, and that's not true. We forget social media needs you to be on it for it to be relevant. That's key. You have
That's a
to be
good
on it
point.
for it to be relevant. If nobody uses it, it's irrelevant. And of course, there's many, many other reasons why we feel irrelevant, after a job loss, as adult children leave the home, or they get busy with their own lives, after retirement, the death of a spouse, or a progressing chronic medical illness that really has kind of prevented you from being with people that you really want to be with. So, you know, was there a time in your life, JoJo, where you felt irrelevant and without purpose?
It's funny you mentioned chronic illness, chronic issues. That's exactly when I felt completely ignored, irrelevant, unhelpful, because I had fibro probably since I was a kid, but after menopause, I gained 40 pounds and I'm only 5 foot nothing and I wear children's shoes. So 40 pounds for me was a lot of weight. And it made my energy level, which was already very low, I mean, it crashed. And I was living my whole life on my couch. I couldn't do anything for anybody. And I felt like I was irrelevant. I felt like I was not seen because I wasn't able to do things, go anywhere, be with anybody. And by the way, by the time that happened a few years later, COVID.
Oh gosh, double whammy.
Yeah. So nobody was going anywhere. And I did. I felt very alone.
Wow. I mean, that's, I think a lot of people feel that way.
I
And
think so.
and it's one of the reasons why we're talking about it. I mean, I have a podcast, and sometimes I wonder, does it really matter what I say, what I'm putting out there? But on those days, I just remind myself, as I'm reminding you, those watching, that, Jesus gave you a purpose and your relevance is based on a call to action. Love others as you love yourself, and love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And I think if you do that well, then you have your hands full of purpose. So I want to encourage you to look back on each decade of your life. The relationships, the gatherings, the one-on-ones with children, men and women, and take a moment to appreciate your impact on their lives. You know, you need to give yourself credit for being an influence to them in all the ways. And a lot of times people don't tell us that we had that impact. So sometimes when you're in that low place and wondering, what your purpose for life is, it's good to look back. And so I want to encourage you to do that. The other thing is if you have any saved notes or cards, go back and look at those. Remind
It's a
yourself
great
that
idea.
that you made a difference in somebody's life because you took the time to send a card. And and then they, or whatever it is you did, you took a meal or you just listened and they sent you a card that said, I just want you to know that was I'm just so glad that you took the time to spend with me that day, or whatever else. And remembering that is a boost to your self-esteem and confidence. And I think we think big and bold, right? But it's the small things, the words that we don't even know contain the power to change that soul, right? Um,
Mhm.
and in that moment, you're being used by the Lord, whether you know it or not. And it's these small acts that are overwhelmingly potent. All
I
right.
think too, I want to pause for a second because it isn't just our words, is it? Because sometimes when you're passing somebody, you may not even know that person. You give them a smile in the middle of that can make a huge difference. And you've not uttered one word.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I used to do that at the medical center. It was a huge medical center in Ohio, the Ohio State University. And when I would walk through the James Cancer Hospital, I would make eye contact and smile at whoever was walking by because I knew if I did that, especially if they looked like they were sort of not sure where they were supposed to go, that gave them an opening. It said, I'm open for questions. I didn't say a word, but they'd say, "Oh, I was wondering, could you help me?" And then I'd get them on their way. But if you're busy looking at your phone or your papers or you're staring straight ahead because you got to get to the meeting, um, you know, you you've shut the you've shut down the communication. Now, some people may still
True.
bug you and ask, but yeah,
Absolutely. And I think too, I mean, like for me, when I was living on my couch, I wasn't doing anything for anybody, or I thought, but I was affecting things for my children and things like that, even though I couldn't do much. But, now God turned that around for me because now I have the energy. I don't have fibro anymore. And now I can help other people get healthy. So there's a time where maybe you don't have that much to give, but that smile. And then God will turn that around. Now, are we ready for the challenge or did you have something else you wanted to say?
nope. Yes, we're ready for the challenge. All right.
Share with us.
So here's your challenge. Make this statement your daily reminder. All right. I am and always will be relevant to my Heavenly Father. No one can take that from me. So say it with us. I am and
And
always
always
will
will
be
be
relevant
relevant
to
to
my
my
Heavenly
Heavenly
Father.
Father.
No
No
one
one
can take
can take
that
that from
from
me.
me.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much, Terry. Thank you all for joining us. Next time we'll have something else and we will see you next week.